everyone. So today we're going to talk about something that I think is a really difficult topic. By the time this video goes up, probably the AMA will already be up, and you'll see that we talked about this very briefly, but due to the AMA going on for fuck all, we basically had to kind of cut the discussion short, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I do think that there are things here that need to be discussed a little bit more in full, and go from there. So the thing we're going to be talking about today is the idea of separating from family. When do you do it? How do you do it? And hi everyone in YouTube chat. And what constitutes that? And this is the important one, if you do decide to cut out family members, God damn it, there's something in my eye. If you do decide to cut out family members, my hair's just all over my face today. If you do decide to cut out family members, then how do you deal with family members that try to break that boundary, right? So full disclosure, do you want to speak about your background or do you want me to go first?
You can go first, I can go second.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll cover our backgrounds real quick and then, yeah.
So I was raised in a family where I had 6 aunts and 1 uncle. Or not 6 aunts, 5 aunts and then my mom. And every single person in that family had issues. And as such, being from a family of multi-generational abusers and survivors, one of the things that I really struggled with was being anywhere near any kind of abuse. One of the superpowers, and I use that term very lightly, that sometimes gets developed by people is that they kind of pick up on that stuff. They can note when someone's been through that shit. I know I did that a lot with a lot of my previous relationships where I get that ping from someone and go, oh, there's something here. And 9 times out of 10, I would be right. The thing is that to some degree, I had a very tangential relationship with my family for most of my childhood, most of my adolescence. I would see them just as much as I needed to and no more than that. I would hang out with my cousins, but even then I didn't really feel part of the family. After my wife passed away in 2004, so I was been about 23, 24 at that time, essentially tangential in the sense of I always wanted to be somewhat separate from or not really fully connected to. I wanted to be always kind of like something they brought up as an after the fact kind of thing, if that makes sense. Around that time, I had heard a story about one of my younger cousins, my second cousin, going back to see one of her parents because of a very, very strained and awful divorce. And she had burst into tears. Just burst into tears heading back. And anyone who has that trauma sense, that's a red flag. I'm in danger. So I immediately cut out my family, all of them. Part of this was because of the maltreatment they had given my partner at the time as well, though that was really the secondary. The major thing was, I didn't want to be around that. To this day, I only probably talk to a handful of people, and even that's mostly through social media. I am very much a firm believer based on my therapeutic training, clinical training, all that shit, that I really am a big fan of you should not have to be in a relationship with somebody who is toxic or harmful to you. You should not have to be in a relationship with someone that does not know you. Yes, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. Yep. I've used that term on this channel. I continue using it. So, Zena, what has your experience been?
So my family background isn't the funnest. I grew up, my male parental unit was very abusive. This behavior with him really kicked in when I got into middle school and especially high school. Those were kind of the big things. And even as a teen, I had this sense that I didn't really have parents. They really weren't behaving in ways that parents should. And even as a teen, I had this sense that I didn't really have parents. They really weren't behaving in ways that parents should. And even as a teen, I had this sense that I didn't really have parents. They really weren't behaving in ways that parents should. And even as a teen, I had this sense that I didn't really have parents. They really weren't behaving in ways that parents should. So I very early on was like, I don't have parents. Like that was teenage me. That is what I told myself in my head. I didn't go around like yelling that at people. But just I kind of built a framework of I needed to figure out my life without them. And care about myself and love about myself in a way that I could continue without them. My male parent unit style was mostly screaming and yelling, backing people into small spaces or against towards walls. He also liked throwing things, so he wasn't necessarily. Oh god. Also, content warnings, abuse, emotional, not much physical. Maybe some brief mention of transactional sexual assault at some point in here. Yeah. Anyways, this guy was just an ass. Like, I really have I don't think I have any really, like, good memories of him. Like, he just was not personable ever. And he, of course, didn't know me, and I can go on for a while about this shit, but, my mom got the divorce through finally when I was, like, 17, so custody figured out, like, I was just, went with her, and that was that. And sure enough, like, there was a couple of other confounding things in here. My older sibling was really violent towards me. In a lot of ways, and this escalated quite, especially more, as I got older. And my parents never noticed, never refused to do anything, and so, the divorce happened. I moved out with my mom. It's actually been a little bit hard to say mom right now. Usually I say, I haven't quite switched that up. In my head, I've switched over to her first name, but I'm trying not to spook her yet until I financially separate fully from her. But yeah, so, anyways, older sibling is violent. My mom would bring him around a lot, just completely ignore that he was violent towards me. Like, if she did acknowledge it, it would be in the, oh, well, he's really sorry he did that. Yeah, no, there's only so many times somebody can do that to me where I'm like, you're beyond forgiveness. You can fuck right out of my life. So, like, I don't, like, again, my older sibling was a jackass. He was mean to us constantly anyways. I don't have good times. So, the unfortunate part was that, like, no, like, this, because of my mom randomly bringing him around and not telling me and doing this so many times, I was in a position where I had to go find other places to stay, other friends. I ended up at a very transactional, kind of sexual assaulty, type of, thing with my housemate for a while. That was really pretty fucked. So I've cut out, those two. I still keep in contact with my younger brother. He's really cool.
Oh, yeah, he's super cool.
But, right now I'm still dealing with my mom because somewhat financially, like, still see her in the same places. She, goes to the same church that I work at. And we are at a point where she's not willing to do personal work. She's not willing to look at this stuff. She goes into denial about it. Gender-wise, I've never had her be affirming to my gender. I've never had her be affirming to Jess. I don't think I've heard her say Jess's name, like, ever. She cannot get my pronouns right. She cannot get our young adults' pronouns right. And this is somebody that's been doing, like, activism with me since I was, like, 17, okay? Like, it's been a decade.
Yeah.
At least. Like, she can fucking learn. Like, what the hell? So, I guess we'll kind of get into, some of how this stuff works and some ways to do that.
Let's be very clear. We have a bias.
Yeah, I've asked her to do personal work. Like, I have, like, hey, Mom, can you go get therapy? Like, if you really want a relationship with me, I really want you to be in therapy so we can actually, like, have a relationship that isn't just denial. Her response at the time was, well, I've got really good friends and I'll just lean on them.
Yeah, so...
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that did... So, So kind of pulling this around as far as like the discussion is, so the question that was asked during the AMA was, when is it okay to do this?
So extreme violence. And I think certainly like, not that you need to stick around forever, but there does, I want to say I've heard, if you've seen Dr. Z on YouTube, she's a therapist that works with trans people. I think she's quoted like, hey, if after about like 6 months, your family really hasn't done any work or tried anything to use your pronouns or anything like that, like that's about the point where you can.
Yeah, just GTFO.
Just GTFO. Like they're not even trying at that point.
So here's the thing that I always come at this from, and this is kind of more the clinical perspective. Maybe this will go into distorted thinking as well. Maybe we're just doing all distorted thinking, because this is actually, in my mind, a problem. And I'll explain my reasoning. There is a misperception in people's minds that being birthed by somebody means you owe them shit. There is an idea in a lot of the clients I work with that there is an obligation they have towards the people that decided to spit them out. Let me be really clear. I don't really preserve that notion. I don't really think of that notion. And I know that seems like a fairly obvious take, but to a lot of people, it's not. Our culture, our country, puts a tremendous amount of weight on familial relationships and the way they interact. There are people who will stay in incredibly toxic situations, not admit to themselves that their parents are abusive, or even admit that they are engaging in stuff that is absolutely fucking toxic by all measure, because they're family. You just accept family for who they are. And I'm sorry, but that's not how I roll. The reframing I offer people on this is very simple. Every relationship has social contracts involved. If you chose to give birth to me, that is, somebody fucked and I got spit out of somebody's vagina, guess what? I don't really owe you shit. And the reason I say this is, you did not choose your parents, your ethnicity, your time period, your gender, your motherfucking country of origin. You didn't choose anything, because we sort of, as Heidegger put it, kind of get thrust into relationship with reality. I've talked about this before, my sort of existential or nihilistic takes on this stuff. And I'm going to say very clearly, I think the obligation goes one way. Your parents owe you support and love because you were put into this situation. I'm not going to like the comical anarchist route where it's like, this is a power dynamic, it's bad, we have to get rid of it. No. But I think it comes with responsibility. In some ways, I kind of use the Spider-Man adage. With great power, that is being the person that forces someone into existence, comes with great responsibility. And parents that fuck that up, you don't have to stay in contact with. And I'll say more about this in a minute, but I do want to hear what Zena has to say. But there is the additional thing of what happens if you do cut out a parent, and then the rest of the family gives you shit. So think about that for a minute. But yeah, like, Zena, what is your thought on this? This idea that, like, you've heard me complain about this. People.
Oh, no, we've been through this. Jess and I have been through this whole talk together. Like, I'm totally on that, right? Like, no, I don't think that you necessarily have to owe your parents anything.
Yeah.
No, I'm actually reading through a lot in chat as well and going, yep. Yeah, we definitely have got quite a few stories here.
But Althea, that also is true with mind states. The idea of something being forever or you having to be a certain way forever is also a cognitive distortion. It's the idea of that. And those stories come from those families. The idea that you're hardwired to stay connected to your family because they spat you out is directly, in my mind, connected to the idea of the permanent self. The idea of the ego is certainly structured in certain ways. You'll always be connected to them. Bitch, I share a couple alleles in common. Fuck off. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think it's the other thing I noticed is that it's especially hard when you're doing your personal work and you have to keep going back into a toxic situation. It is really fucking messy and hard to have any kind of growth when you are constantly having to re-engage in that system, right? Like, no, I'm here doing my personal work. Like, how do I re-engage with my mom who's constantly in denial?
By the way, folks that are new to Discord, if you are posting anything that involves specific abuse, please make sure you use the spoiler. You select over the thing before you post it and hit the eyeball. Just as a note, please. We want to make sure that nobody's reading things that they don't want to. So.
Yeah. Also, during streams, if you're new, links can only get posted in links of stream, a separate channel, and only during streams.
Yeah. So I asked this in the AMA not about owing, but more about the expectation to attempt to maintain or repair those connections. But to me, that obligation is what leads to that. It's the idea that regardless of what these people have done, you are obligated to stay in connection with them. And to me, that's not it. If people are going to be toxic, they're going to be harmful, they're going to be hurtful, I'm not interested.
So the thing I would say is that if you look at a systems perspective, right, you've got, you and this person, maybe like a parent, right, that you're in a relationship with, and there's stuff there, and you cut off from that. Okay. But there's still all of these tendrils that these people have to each other, right? There's a whole big system here. If just because a parent and a child could be a singular factor here, but this system, in a lot of cases, I'd be willing to bet extends out. Okay. Those toxic things came from somewhere. Super
fucking true. And I will go back to what Tiamat said. So Tiamat said the separation question is about past emotional abuse rather than anything involved in transition, in transition specifically. Yeah. And what I'm trying to say is that, to me, the expectation to maintain those connections is in the social contracted notion of obligation. And the idea that you have to maintain contact is built into the story, right? It's built into the narrative we talk about when we talk about family. And one of the things I want to be really clear about is Zena's absolutely right. So there's layers here, right? There's different systems, different ways of engaging. Hey, that are by their nature all sort of stacking on one another, right? We talk about this when we talk about from a systems perspective or a Gestalt perspective. There are ways in which, because of the way a family is structured, then the problem is you get into this issue of it almost being a system by which it almost pulls you in, right? And that can be through emotional manipulation, gaslighting, whatever, right? Hanging Wednesday said, I attribute this to two things. One, cultural ideas that in some ways parents and by extension family have weird property rights over children. Fucking true, Hanging Wednesday.
Yep.
The next thing, the idea is at the end of the day, blood relationships will have your back or support you in some way based on this idea of scarcity and a fear of destruction if we don't have the support in an unfriendly world. Which is such bullshit because the people that are my chosen family, some of which are in this chat or sitting right next to me, have been more supportive and loving than really half or any of my family members combined. There is no obligation here. There's literally no guarantee. You're literally born into a universe that's 14 billion years separated, right? Massive fucking place. We're in a giant galaxy around a fucking supermassive black hole. And you're telling me that there's these obligations, these strings of social connection that make this happen? It's super fucking weird.
No, I gotta be honest. The thing, insight to our relationship and how some of this affects us is we say that we want to be with each other all the time. I think, several times a day, right? We are very aware that this is something that we actively choose to be in, right? I get a choice. Every time I fight with Jess, no, I choose to stick it out, to work it out with this person, right? That is a thing that I absolutely have a choice, and I'm not stuck because of any obligation, right? I'm not stuck because I was a teen and I couldn't support myself as a child, right? You know, and I think that choice of like, no, I choose to be here every single fucking day is absolutely fucking powerful.
And even going one step further with that, I'll even go one step further as this idea is that this is the thing, this is the distortion part that I think really fucks with me in sessions, because it doesn't, I get it from the inside of it, but from the outside it makes no sense. And I'll say it this way. A lot of people come at it from, I am supposed to be with this person, or this person is my mom, or this person is the person that like is supposed to be there for me. And thus to separate means to be guilty. I've seen this with trans people where they're about to separate out of they want to separate from their parents. Their parents are being awful about their transition. And yes, it's a maladaptive coping strategy as well as a distorted thought. So many distorted thoughts today. Make sure you put that in spoilers, Rosanna, but fair, dong, as we're talking about in Roblox. My point is that they come at it from the angle of you must be this way, as a set instead of being, what are my standards for relating? Right?
Oh, those things like
literally
in toxic family systems that like, what are my boundaries and what are the standards for relating absolutely get missed and like not taught. Like that's a thing that probably wasn't a thing and needed to be. So
no, Hanging Wednesday's right. Found family is a beautiful notion, but it can, if not careful, duplicate the effects of your family. Because here's the joke. Here's the thing no one wants to talk about. Your shit always comes with you. Full stop. Always. This is like Gestalt 101. You walk in and all of your figures and all of your shit walks in the fucking room with you. And it's always there. And you're always, unless you're aware enough, trying to reduplicate it. Just saying. Like, this is the thing. I need people to understand this. That if somebody is treating you shitty, if your mom is overly pressuring you, if your dad is an abusive prick, if you're dealing with something that is over the top, you have to acknowledge that. You also have to acknowledge the fact that if you're somebody who these people have power over, either through finances, age, or some other method, you might have to figure out a way to navigate this until you have more power. But the fact of the matter is that this isn't about whether you're worthy of love. This isn't about whether or not you meet their bullshit standards. It's about whether or not they act like the people they're supposed to be. If someone's supposed to be your parent, act like it. Loving and supporting and understanding, not just lashing out and telling you to shut up. I was one of those shitty parents. I get it. I really fucking get it. Because when you're a kid trying to take care of a kid, you fuck all of this up. No excuses, though. Full stop. If someone's going to take on the fucking mantle of parent, if they're going to spit out a human life, this is a thing. Fuck, there's an entire branch of philosophy that actually ethically argues whether or not it's even ethical to have kids. Because you're literally forcing them into a world of fucking suffering. Man, that's some Buddhist, that's a fucking spicy Buddhist take. Hey, you're bringing them in the world. They're going to eventually suffer heartbreak. They're going to have injuries. They're going to get sick. Eventually, they're going to see you die. And you're just bringing them in on a fucking whim. Holy shit.
So I think there was a question about dealing with people trying to keep you in that relationship. And you might, I'm going to be real here, you might be having to make that decision. Maybe you can talk it out with them. Maybe they will kind of understand and respect your boundaries. Maybe they won't. And okay, so I'm just going to be real, like, full disclosure. Like, the divorce was really messy. And my younger brother was supposed to come live with my mom and I, and he didn't at the last second. That fight, there was this moment where my male parental unit was screaming and told my younger brother that if he went with mom that time, okay, and this was after he had been screaming and throwing stuff for a while. But if my younger brother went with mom, then he could never come back. And, but this kind of set off a chain of events, where no, he went with male parental unit. He stayed there, and that's where he lived, and that really split us. But I had this thing where, like, no, I thought that he should come around. I thought that he should be supportive to my mom, or at least be around. And, you know, I wasn't always, mostly I just wanted him around occasionally.
Yeah. Real quick, I do want to clarify something. You don't have a name in YouTube chat, so I'm just going to try to do my best. The person with no name who said, Happy 4th of July. Happy 4th of July to you. Are you suggesting that antinatalism is a respected philosophy? No. I think antinatalism is fucking cringe because it ignores, one, it feels like a dodge to acknowledge the responsibility of parents, and two, I think it takes away the liberty for people to have kids. What I'm saying is, you are creating attachments by having a kid, and thus you have responsibilities socially built into that relationship, and you need to honestly take them seriously. Alias, cool. Alias, solid. The way this connects to Buddhism for me, well, Buddhism doesn't have a specific statement on this. There is a way in which, by choosing any relationship from a Mahayana perspective, you are choosing suffering. The thing is, from a Mahayana perspective, you're not choosing unconsciously. You choose relationship consciously. You're going to have kids, pog. But if you're going to have kids, know what you're doing. Take a couple classes, learn how to deal with shit in therapy. Maybe not just yell at your kids all the time. I wish I would have had that fucking advice. Shit could have been better. Just saying. So, does this make sense, guys? I know we have other things to get to tonight, and I want to get to those. How are you feeling right now? What are your thoughts?
I was in the middle of a story trying to get to the point.
Oh, sorry. Going back to your story.
You literally just cut in while I was in the middle of a...
Sorry, there was a thing in chat that I was responding to. My apologies.
Chat, you're going to have to hold on. You're going to have to just hold on so I can finish a thought, because I am migrating super hard. It came on really hard, really fast just before stream, and so it might be a little bit randomly.
Sorry about that.
Thanks, love.
Okay. Yeah, get back to your story. My apologies. I just wanted to respond to that because I didn't want me to be misunderstood. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. They can wait.
Yes, ADHD in action. Sure.
Yeah, pretty much.
So your brother, last moment.
Yeah. So he went to live with male parental unit. I went to live with mom. Okay. And he was being a shitlord anyways at various points. I didn't find out until the last year just quite what was going on his end of things. And when I did, things started to make a lot more sense. I actually am surprised, that he finally, we actually were having this conversation, because I wasn't sure if it was going to happen or not. Ever, in the span of our lifetimes. So the thing I found out was that I was getting the brunt of the emotional and physical stuff from male parental unit, and my younger brother was getting the erratic, bizarre, just my mom really couldn't socialize or talk very well. She'd go into denial. She would do really weird things, and no one talked with my younger brother about disabilities. So all of what ones that he had, and so all of this random shit would get thrown out all the time because my parents were just never fucking had that talk with my younger brother. I had to tell him about the things that my mom already had figured out. As an adult, I had to tell him, no, these are the words for the things. We've got some of this going, and so I found out later that there was a whole level of fucked, and so I just, I get that people still have their attachments, and I guess it's, with extra people, you got to make that choice of, is this somebody that is going to come on your side and respect your boundaries? I never really forced him to do anything. I just, would make it known that I would a thing. But, a lot of this stuff with abuse, the issues that can happen is that people aren't communicating. They're not able to talk about it. They don't always know the same side. And so, Yeah,
that sounds familiar based on my understanding, Tiamat.
Yeah, the opposed parent, yeah. Yeah, again, my mom was never openly emotionally unavailable was generally her jam. But I think with family stuff, it's just, this is going to be a person by person thing, right? Is this person respecting your boundaries? Right? I think that's one of the things that Jess and I had to work on, especially with me, was even if there were times we just didn't understand the boundary or didn't get it, Jess always still respected it, always still honored it, and made sure that was a thing. And I didn't have that growing up, right? And so, the one part of this I think is figuring out what boundaries you have, what your standards for relationships are, how you want to be treated. If, you know, if people aren't respecting your name, your pronouns, fuck them. Like, you absolutely deserve that. So
I love that you changed your name to social worker Buddhist carer. fuck yeah, dude. Super. Neglect is so much more pernicious than abuse events. It makes you think this is normal. Absolutely. I think that is such an easy way. We just talked about this with imposter syndrome, right? Oh, my abuse wasn't that bad. My dad just punched me once. I mean, like, people can normalize anything because they always can conceive of, hypothetically, a worse scenario. And the way this plays into this is, well, I shouldn't have to cut off my mom because, she could be a vampire that explodes me with her eyes and then reforms me with wishes. Yeah, I can conceive of her being worse, but she's still kind of a douche.
Yeah, no, it's weird having this conversation because I'm totally in the process of, like, taking care of the last couple of financial attachments that I've got and just being done. Like, I've never known. It's been, the therapy thing with her was a couple of years ago. She messaged me maybe a week ago and was like, hey, I talked to this 100-year-old guy and he was like, no, life is too short. You should, like, make good with people and reconnect with them and, have the relationships you want, something of that nature. Okay. Like, and she's messaging me this and I'm like, so I told you about that therapy. Did that happen? Nope. Again, this is my mom who, like, can't handle things and go into denial every single time you bring stuff up. So it's kind of like,
Hi, Jocelyn. Welcome. So I'm going to call this one here because I think me and Zena could go off on this for literal hours.
Yeah. I mean, is there anything, like, practically speaking, would leave people on?
I guess the practical speaking thing for me, at least, would be I think you need to reframe in your mind how you view relationships.
Yeah.
The idea that you are obligated or that you are forced or you are connected with, you are somehow obligated or are made to stay with people who don't like you, who don't treat you well, who don't honor their social role to you, right? If someone's going to be called mother, fucking act like it. Right? And I'm not saying there couldn't be individuality in there, but I mean, that's very clear. There's when there's toxic things. If someone tells you a behavior is toxic, listen to them, hear them out. If they're coming in good faith, if they generally have your best interest in mind, fucking do the thing. Like, I think the idea of just people with power being respected because reasons is weird. And I come at this from a very alien perspective because I come from a weird family. My point with this is that I think you need to reframe this and think, what is the behavior I expect from the people around me? And are these people meeting it? And if you notice that they are, but you still feel like shit, fix your standard and have other people talk to you. Because if your standards are too low, you may just set it up that you're like, oh no, they're treating me fine, they're treating me fine. If you tell it to your friend and they're like, dude, that's fucked up. Like, maybe hear them out.
Yeah. I think practically speaking, the other thing I would say is that, yes, they can say that your parents love you, but, like, just that it's got, like, this has to be in a way that you can actually, like, be okay with. Like, it's got to actually be, like, working out for you. If you don't have a whole lot of resources outside your family, start making it. Start making friends. Start reaching out, right? Start making those connections, start forming those relationships and really start putting work into it. That's how you're going to form other, found family systems that are healthy, right? When you guys start putting in your personal work into this, you would be amazed what actually handling conflict for real does to people, who have never had healthy conflict. So that would be my practical suggestion here.
Yeah. So with that said, everybody who shared personal stuff in their background, I really do want to thank you. I know that stuff can be really hard. And I know this is YouTube, you're doing the streaming thing, yada, yada. You guys shared a lot of really intense stuff. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and being heard. Any comments to the contrary or giving people shit for their sharings will be immediately deleted and those people will be blocked from the channel. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the fucking bell. Yeah, you should probably, if you like the content, donate. AdSense sucks. So, maybe go to streamlabs.com/transgrowtherapist/tip, or maybe you go to our Patreon, patreon.com/transgrowtherapist, and become a patron for as low as $3. Otherwise, we will see you guys in the next segment. See you later.
Bye, everyone.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. You can also ring the bell if you want to be notified of our videos. If you want to help the channel, you can donate at streamlabs.com/transgrowtherapist/tip. You also can become a patron at patreon.com/transgrowtherapist. For as low as $3, you can support our channel. Thanks for watching.